Some like Icelandic skier or some shit.
It was like one of those chia pod yogurt things that had chia seeds in it. It was good, but like not $12 good.
Right. Did you buy it at the airport?
Bought it on this corner. Should have bought it in Brooklyn.
You had to make a run to Newark to get some chia yogurt and that. $12.
That's why I was late this morning.
Before coming to the
all places.
All right. We are finally going to talk about something we should have just started the podcast with, but we just go with the flow. So we're going to talk about Smirk, our first album on Birch Grove Media, and just like dive into it because we've all been really hype about Bear Skinner, which is totally fine. But we got to take a minute and pause and reflect on Smirk. So let's like rewind way the fuck back. When did Smirk first get together?
I started the band in 2011, and the first gig was at IBM in Brooklyn. The original band was myself, Travis Reuter. It was going to be Jeremy Viner, but he couldn't make the first gig, so it was Andrew Carrico, and then Chris Tordini and Tyshawn Sorey. So
IBM 2011, literally 15 years ago.
Yeah.
So this album was a long time coming. So you also, I should say, because it's not on Birch Grove Media yet, but there's a very similar group called Face.
Right.
And I always thought it was cool, the names dealing with Face and Smirk. What's the difference? Like, it's really similar, right? Like the music?
It was all my compositions in the same time period, but Face was my acoustic band. That started in 2008 or 2007. I think 2008 probably. And then they ran in parallel when Smirk started in 2011. And Smirk was sort of my electric band, and Face was my acoustic band. They were both quintets and both all my music, but the difference was the electric component of the electric bass in Smirk.
I've never asked this before of you, but did you have a different frame of mind when you wrote for each different bands, electric versus acoustic?
Yeah, I always try to write for the people in the band, so it's always going to vary with who's playing.
Yeah. You just said both bands were quintets. Let's talk about Smirk specifically. You expanded that to a sextet with Matt Mitchel. Why did you feel like you had to expand it from a quintet to a sextet?
Well, having him on synth kind of exaggerates the electric concept a bit. Plus, it's Matt Mitchel, so if he wanted to play the music, I wasn't going to say no. So if he wanted to play accordion, I would have figured that out. But he has a Prophet synth, and it sounds awesome, so it fit the vibe, and it just worked out great. I met Matt Mitchel. He showed up to a Face gig in 2015 or 2014, probably 2014. And after that, we played a couple sessions with Kim and who else? Maybe Jeremy? I don't remember. Maybe Travis? I don't remember, but just played some stuff, and he read a bunch of my music, and then wanted to play in the band,
So he came on with Smirk in what year?
2016, I think.
So you went 5 years without having synth, did you write all new music for the bands to include synth, or did you go back retroactively and add in synth?
I think once he was in the mix, I started writing for a sextet instead of a quintet, but we also played some of the older tunes that he was involved in, and I sort of adapted them and thickened up the parts with some synth stuff. For the record release gig, he couldn't make that, so I got John Elbaz, and that was my first time working with John. He was great.
Yeah, that was awesome. He just jumped in and had awesome energy too.
They played the shit out of the music.
Yeah. So it's kind of like a mix and match of different players over the years when you have gigs versus the recording session. Do you want to go through like just each instrumentation and different permutations we've had for the band?
I think I mentioned earlier Andrew Carrico was on the first gig, but Jeremy Viner was on most of the Smirk gigs over the years, the vast majority of them. I think the only other one he didn't make, I got Mark Shim to fill in for him, and that was really cool. I met Jeremy probably in 2010, 2011. I don't remember, but quite a while ago. And he was also playing in Face after Andrew passed away, so he was playing in both Face and Smirk at the same time. Travis, I think he made every single Smirk gig. I never got a sub guitar player, and I don't know how I could honestly get one. That would be very hard.
Tordini can play both electric and upright.
Yeah, but I wanted to write for a 5-string electric. So.
And that's what he's got a 5-string electric that he just kills on. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, all the Smirk music was written for a 5-string electric. So whoever played in the band pretty much had a 5-string electric.
Okay.
I'm trying to think if we had anybody on bass that didn't. I think they all did.
What if you had like a badass bass player though that didn't play 5-string? Would you have changed?
Maybe, yeah. I mean, they all did have a 5-string.
Okay.
And that low B sounds so nice that.
So nice. All right. So you got Chris Tordini, and you have Kim Cass, and sometimes Greg Chudzik too. So what's it like juggling bass players?
It's pretty hard because the bass player needs to be able to play with Tyshawn seamlessly, which is a challenge. But I always got guys that could handle it. And I started, like I said earlier, with Chris. He knows Tyshawn's playing like the back of his hand, it seems like. So it was easy to have Chris around and have him fit well with Tyshawn. Greg also is rock solid, and he filled in for Chris a few times when Chris couldn't make it. And then once Chris was so busy that I had to call Kim regularly for the band, Kim was already playing with Tyshawn on and off at the time. I think this was probably 2017. So I had set up the first session and the first gig with Kim and Tyshawn back in 2015. It was a trio of me, Kim, and Tyshawn and Bar Lunatico, and Kim was playing upright. And that was their first session and first gig. And after that, they played various bands and gigs and stuff together. So they got more comfortable. And by the time I needed Kim in Smirk, it was just really easy, and he fit in great with the band and with Tyshawn. So
you kind of played matchmaker, basically. Like if they were a couple, you like got them married.
I guess so. I mean,
that was a weird analogy.
I mean, to be I think I might have done something similar with Chris and Tyshawn. I don't think it was necessarily the first recording they did, but I did a recording with Chris and Tyshawn in 2006.
Dang.
Before I knew of any other Chris and Tyshawn recordings. And then another one in 2007. The first one Tyshawn played trombone on. The second one Tyshawn played drums on. And I don't think there were other Chris and Tyshawn recordings before that. So I don't necessarily want to say I brought them together, but I know I brought Kim and Tyshawn together for the first time.
Nice. Random fact. I didn't know that.
the drummers, Tyshawn did most of the gigs. I had Kenny Grahowski play one show and Sam Ospavat on one show, but Tyshawn did all the rest of them.
I know the story, but tell us how you met Tyshawn.
I went to a jazz camp in high school, and Tyshawn was one of the teachers there. And he gave me my entrance music theory exam when I walked in the door the first day. And I had to go in a little classroom and just sit at a table by myself and fill out a little paper to show that I know what music theory is. And he was like sitting in the corner, like looking at, not his phone because there weren't cell phones back then, but yeah. So he did that, and then he was at the camp and, acted talented and crazy like he always does. And then I went to William Patterson, and he was there playing trombone and drums and piano. And I think my freshman year, he had some kind of recital at NJ Pack. So he wrote music for flugelhorn and piano that we played together at that recital.
Oh.
Yeah, that was a crazy piece of music I had to learn as a freshman.
I should re-record that. Do you still have it?
Maybe on like a crumpled up piece of paper. He actually put together this band in college called Metropolis that did one show. I think it was a complete failure of a project because he wrote this wild music and then gave it to us and none of us could read it. So I think he was just like, that band didn't work. But it was a cool group. It was me and Clackner and Chris Aiello and Tyshawn. But, whatever. That was a funny memory.
I do remember the name of that band. That's funny. In 2017 was the recording session for Not Your Grandfather's Jazz. So let's talk about what that session date was like, where it was recorded, the engineers that worked on it. Can you just give a quick overview of that whole process?
It was recorded at GSI in Manhattan. Josh Gunta is the recording engineer, and Jason Rothstowski, I believe is how you say his last name. He mastered it. He was also at the recording session helping out, and I mixed it. I produced it. The recording session was, I think, about 6 or 7 hours at GSI, about 1 hour, a little less than 1 hour per tune. We did a couple takes of some of the tunes. I'll put some B-roll footage in here of the session day.
So also in 2017, I believe right around the same time that you guys recorded, I could be wrong, Ty had his Stone residency,
It was the same week.
It was the same week.
We recorded
wow. Okay,
one day,
forgot.
and the next day was our gig at the Stone.
Wow, my memory is so bad.
The rehearsal for the Stone was the recording session.
So do you feel like the Stone, like you guys just nailed it?
It went really well.
Yeah.
I mean, there was bumps along the way, but it was good.
And
yeah.
I love that it was at the old Stone.
Yeah, the new Stone's not as cool, that's for sure.
I mean, you don't have to go to the bathroom behind the bands, like as they're setting up. That's cool, the new one, but that's, yeah, I'll just leave that there. So let's talk about how we decided to make Not Your Grandfather's Jazz the first Birch Grove Media release, and then how it turned into our record label instead of just a single album.
I did shop this record idea around. I didn't have the recording that I shopped around. I shopped around the idea of the recording, so proposing a project. And I think I reached out to 4 or 5, maybe 6 of the really good labels at the time. I'm sure everyone can guess what they are. And the only one that actually gave me the time of day was ECM. They said, yeah, we could probably do something in 2 or 3 years, and I didn't want to wait. So I basically took out a loan and funded the project myself and paid it off for a couple of years. And it did take a couple of years for me to even mix it. I had to produce it, and that took quite a long time because I've obviously mixed plenty of things, but this was like a special project that I thought needed a lot of care, and I probably took way too long doing it. And then as I was producing it, I was buying better gear, so I would redo things, and then it would just kind of spiral into this thing that took way too long. But
It's your baby.
yeah, but I also shouldn't let things marinate for 7 years. That's ridiculous. And I learned from that mistake. So this next, unrelated to this, but the Bear Skinner album, is turnaround time is a lot faster. We recorded in January and we're getting it out. It's already almost done. So that's going to the vinyl shop pretty soon.
Yeah, early May 2026 as we're talking right now. So
yeah,
it's a huge difference.
Yeah. Learned from that mistake, but
Right. And I totally get it. I mean, I remember just being, I remember you going through like the phase of shopping the idea around and finally just being like, fuck it, I'm going to do it myself.
yeah.
And sorry to interrupt you. I just remember you going through that whole thing, and it's a similar kind of like just gradual push to just be like, well, fuck it, let's just do our own label. Like, why stop right at this one album? That's how I was thinking of it. What about you from your perspective? Like, we have so many more ideas and so much already recorded.
Yeah, I just once I had self-funded everything, I wasn't ready to just sell the masters to some existing label or whatever.
Yeah.
It felt like a cop-out. So not that other people doing that is necessarily a cop-out, but the way I wanted to go was create a platform where I could do this over and over again and just easily release things constantly. So that's the plan, and that's why this label started. So
Thank you.
There was a band called Mary Poppins that had a huge role in Smirk. And I want to clarify how Mary Poppins is spelled because I always thought it was really funny. It's not the name Mary, but it's Merry. So I thought that's a funny play on words. But yeah, how can you go into how that band's influence had a big role in Smirk?
Yeah, I was playing in a wedding band for a long time, and in college and then post college, and we moved to the city in 2006. And the drummer at the time when I moved to the city was Max Goldman in my wedding band. So Max invited me to a session, and it turned into a weekly session with Travis Reuter, Matt Silberman, and Greg Chudzik. So that's where I met Travis, and I think that was 2007, probably when the session started. So met Travis there. I met Greg there. He played in Smirk also. I think I met Jeremy also there. I think I met Andrew Carrico also there. And lots of other people, but those were just the guys that were kind of involved in this conversation. But and then because I met Travis there, I mean, I already knew who Kim was many years ago, but I met Kim at a session with Travis many years later. So a lot of this stuff kind of spiraled out of Mary Poppins in a weird way. I did in college meet Kim one time. He was playing a trio gig in the city that me and Jesse Cameron and Kevin Neaton went to go see many, many years ago. And at the time I was living at this awful college place called the Brown House. And one of my roommates, Jesse Cameron, went to high school with Kim. And another one of my roommates, Garrett Brown, went to high school with Chris Tordini. And both of them were trying to convince me that they knew the best bass player on the planet at the same time. And I didn't believe either of them at the time. I was like, you can't both be right. But eventually they were both right. Yeah.
It was possible.
Yeah. And I'd already played with Chris in college and met him. And so I kind of thought Garrett was right. But then eventually I realized Jesse was also right about Kim. So yeah, it was a weird situation.
A side note about the Brown House, it's actually already featured in this podcast. If you're watching the video version, the pictures on the intro are,
I guess so,
from the Brown House. Fun behind the scenes.
The BB gun dents on the stop sign.
Yeah.
That's the Brown House.
Yeah. What you just described, this is going to be a funny visual, but you know the meme of the guy, the conspiracy theorist guy, like pointing to the bulletin board with all the strings and stuff on it? When you describe like how you met all these musicians, it reminds me of that guy, like connecting all these strings, and it's just this giant like ball of string, basically a mess, but that's how I see it in my head. And I can't even keep track of all these guys. To be honest, no, I'm surprised you can. Like, I've totally forgot Mary Poppins. Like, that's how Smirk came to be. And it's crazy because if you didn't meet certain people, like that cascade never would have happened.
Yeah, it's wild.
Or maybe it would have, just different timing, because it's just all a big circle.
Well, it definitely would have. Like I said, I re-met Kim.
Yeah.
I already met him many, many years before that.
Right.
And then I probably did the same with Jeremy. I think Jeremy played with us in Max's basement, but I think I'd met him at a Tyshawn gig before that.
Yeah.
So it's all like, plus Trevor knew Jeremy from high school. It's all just interconnected at that point.
Yeah, I'm telling you, it's the meme with the conspiracy theorists with all the strings. Let's talk about the Nublu release gig for Smirk.
The Nublu shit show release gig.
I didn't say it. Those are your words. I thought it was awesome, but I also had a few drinks and was multitasking on the business end. But
no, it was a fun gig. I'm glad we did it. Didn't rehearse, and we hadn't played together in 6 years or whatever. So
yeah, you
can imagine playing hard music after 6 years, how that could go. But tunes were a little rocky. There was one tune I was going to skip, and Tyshawn was like, don't skip that tune. I like that tune. And then that one was even a little more rocky, but I'm glad we did it. I'm glad the record's out. And, it was really cool because we had Ryan Clackner, Nick Jost, and Jason Nasri opening for us, and that turned into the next record. So
yeah, I think it's hilarious that Tyshawn requested, maybe demanded, to play that tune. It's like not many people can get away with that with a band leader.
it was already on the set list, and I was going to skip it because we were running out of time.
Yeah.
So we didn't skip it. But then the tune before that, Tyshawn had a 2-measure drum break, and he went to go play the 2-measure drum break, and he dropped his sticks, and he goes, "Fuck, I dropped my sticks," in the dead silence of the band. And then he picked up his stuff and played a big fill and came in perfectly after that. There's a nice video clip of him yelling, "Fuck, I dropped my sticks."
Fuck, I dropped my sticks. And for a while, I'm still to this day, I
think it was intentional.
It was so perfectly
It was
timed.
pretty intentional, I think. Yeah.
It was just so...
It was like a showmanship kind of thing.
Yeah,
It was like,
and it was hilarious.
yeah.
But fuck, I dropped my stick. Classic. You should sample that. The cool thing I liked about that gig that reminded me of back in the day, something reminded me of the 55 bar, which I keep bringing up, I feel like on a couple times on this podcast, but there was this feeling when I was younger, I remember going to these shows, right? And it was so packed that you had to like sit on the floor in front of the band. Did that ever happen to you?
Oh, yeah. I mean, every 55 bar show that was decent.
Right. Like you're right up on their nuts, like while they're trying to play. Like, I don't know.
Or behind them, sitting near the bathroom.
That was the worst. I got stuck there a lot of times. But anyhow, I bring it up because there was one point where it's not like Nublu, and it's Nublu Classic, by the way. It's not like the whole thing was packed that hard, like, but people were it was so intense, like that show, that people were just pressed up. And it's a weird setup in that place too, like, because the stage faces like the shallow part of the room.
I like the room. I don't like the direction of the stage,
I don't know why the direction of the stage is that way, but anyhow, the people were sitting on the floor like right up to you guys, and it just brought back good memories and like this really cool vibe. And it almost felt like, we can put pictures in here, but it almost felt like you were in this intimate like living room or like a loft kind of scene. Like I didn't feel like I was at a bar, or maybe I felt like I was at the 55 bar, but it was really good to see the crowd's reaction, to be listening that closely and just eating all of it up. I mean, obviously the compositions are great. You're not going to say that yourself, but we hire amazing musicians, and it was just so cool to get to showcase them and have all those people not only in the same room, but on stage together. Because like we said, it's so hard to do, to get all that talent in one place on one day. So,
well, it was actually, we were planning the record release, and we knew it was going to be in a general time period, but Travis was coming to New York City to do his own performance and recording. So we just kind of had to make it happen for that. Yeah. Yeah. And it worked out. It was like you said, well, I'm not going to say it was a shit show, but it probably felt like one of you. I was joking when I said shit show, but the tunes were a sloppy mess. It was messy, but it was so fun and just such a... Yeah, the energy was there. The energy was there. It was definitely cool. Yeah, and the Bear Skinner, what is now Bear Skinner opening, was just really great compliment. A little different vibe, but so good. Yeah, so with all that being said, did I miss anything you wanted to talk about? Tie a bow on Smirk? Just buy a record. Go to our website and buy a record. birchgrove.io. Yep. And follow us on Instagram. We're pretty active. YouTube, Birch Grove Media. This podcast comes out. We're pushing it every week. And it's not just going to always be the two of us yapping. We want to feature these awesome people. Yeah, the goal is to not have just the two of us yapping, but, it happens sometimes. Sometimes we got to yap. All right. Awesome. If you enjoyed this podcast, please visit birchgrove.io. It's the home base for our record label, Birch Grove Media. You can buy a vinyl record or a digital album and sign up for our newsletter where you'll receive notifications about future events and releases. Also visit podfuelmedia.com. I'm one of the owners of this company, and if you like how this podcast was produced, we do that for our clients: audio, video edits, syndication, consulting, and startup for a new podcast. So book a call with us and we'll get your podcast going right away. You can also go to buymeacoffee.com/Birch Grove Media and leave us a tip if you'd like. Thank you very much.